My beloved child, I can no longer smile at the way you are treating your own life, not because I reject you, but because I see you clinging so tightly to fear while the door of miracles is already standing open. If today you are willing to stop, to really listen until the end, I will touch the deepest place in your wallet and in the deepest places of your heart. I did not create you to live forever with the feeling of never enough, but I also did not sign you a free ticket into a land of effortless abundance. Between lack and abundance, there is always a bridge called obedience in each small step, and it is your own feet that must step onto it. Today, if you dare to let me touch your fear of money, I will show you this. Lack is not your destiny. It is an invitation for you to grow in me. Do you remember the widow in the days of Elijah? In her house, there was only a handful of flour left, a little oil, and one final plan: to starve to death with her child. I allowed Elijah to step into that scene of deprivation so he could say something that sounded completely upside down. First, make a small cake for me. I did not rain money down from heaven. I did not give her some sudden lucky windfall. I simply asked her for an act of obedience that seemed utterly unreasonable. When she dared to place her last piece of bread into my hands, that was when I showed her lack is not the final full stop, but neither is it an excuse to lie there waiting for magic. I multiplied the flour and the oil, but she herself still had to pour them with her own hands into every jar, day after day, little by little, until there was not a single empty vessel left. I see you, not in the triumphant statuses where you declare abundance, but in the nights when you open your banking app, watch your heart sink, and quietly sigh. You have grown so used to attaching your name to the word lack that you have started to believe it is the lot I assign to you. But, my child, I have never written your story as a life sentence of poverty. The problem is this: you want to use faith as a kind of VIP card that lets you skip the process where I train you in discipline, stewardship, faithfulness, and generosity. You like to hear about unexpected blessings, but you are uncomfortable when I talk about learning to spend responsibly, to dare to give, to dare to offer, to dare to correct old habits. You are not condemned to lack, but you also do not have the right to be lazy and still demand to live in the holy abundance that comes from me. It is exactly in that in-between, between vague belief and real daily life, that the dark corners start to take root in your heart. You live with a constant sense of never enough, always on guard, afraid of falling short, afraid of losing, afraid of tomorrow. You glue your identity onto debts and failures instead of onto my words, calling you a child of the King. You burn bright for a few minutes when you watch a video, you type, "I receive," very quickly, but when the screen goes dark, your life remains unchanged, still anxious, still shrinking back, still waiting for a sudden turnaround from heaven, while refusing to take the small steps I have already spoken. Little by little, you even use the very name, the Lord who provides, to cover the fact that you are avoiding responsibility and avoiding change. Those dark sides do not come from the amount of money in your account, but from a heart that has not yet let me reach all the way down to the roots. I need you to face this first. You have become so used to living with the fear of lack that you almost treat it as part of your personality. You plan not from where I am leading you, but from the memories of back then when it fell short, when it wasn't enough, when you were turned away. So even when I give you new opportunities, you stay standing behind the door, half hoping, half doubting, always getting ready for the worst case scenario. You lie awake at night, calculating every coin, thinking you are being careful, when in reality you rarely let me touch the root of your insecurity. You trust me just enough to ask for a sum of money, but not enough to entrust to me that deeper fear of, what if there isn't enough? It is exactly that defensive mindset that makes you see abundance as something meant only for others. You do not realize that every time you let fear speak louder than me, you are unconsciously signing yet another contract with lack, even though I have repeatedly invited you to step out of it. Do you notice how many times you have told yourself, "I'm used to it, that's life. You just have to be prepared for the worst," when in fact, you are clutching the fear of lack like an old blanket. You use it to justify the closing of your heart, the kind of caution that becomes paralysis, your refusal to open up to others and even to me. Each time you turn down a scrick, new opportunity, or step just because you are afraid of, "What if I don't have enough?" You are quietly saying to your fear, "Stay, I need you to survive." You don't see that the more you live with it, the harder it is to believe that I am the only one who has the right to define what enough means in your life. The fear of lack does not just steal your joy, it chokes your vision until you only dare to exist instead of truly live. I look at you, not to condemn you, but to tell you the truth. That fear is not a companion I sent to you. It is a chain you have silently accepted and locked around your own wrists. Many times, the root of that mindset does not begin in your wallet but in memories you have never handed over to me. You grew up hearing anxious sentences like, "Don't waste," or "You'll go hungry later." "Our family isn't as well off as others," and those words became a kind of litany you recite every time you look at a bill. The world around you teaches you to take care of yourself, to always be on the defensive, to stockpile for the worst days, and so you gradually come to believe that only tension can keep you safe. I have already spoken to you through my word. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing, yet you live each day as if you had no shepherd at all. Psalm 23:1. You hear that verse in church, you nod in agreement, then step out the door and immediately return to the same old refrain. But what if it's not enough? It is exactly this disconnect between what your mouth declares and what your heart truly believes that has created a life permanently stuck on high alert. In the depths of the spirit, the fear of lack is not just a feeling, it is a distorted way of believing about who I am. You imagine that I only show up at the last minute to put out fires, so you always feel you must strain first, calculate first, protect yourself first, and only then allow me into whatever is left. You believe I am good, but you are not sure I am good to you. So you prepare a minimum safety life, just in case I do not come through, and you still have to manage on your own. You only dare to trust me for small, temporary miracles, but you have not yet dared to trust that I am leading you into a whole journey of healing your mindset about money and provision. When you place your trust in the worst-case scenario more than in my words, you have turned fear into a prophet that predicts your future. I do not blame you for old wounds, but I do not want to watch you build your whole life on a foundation of suspicion. So I want you to begin with steps that are small, very small, but honest. Before you make another spreadsheet, learn to stop and ask me, "Father, where is this worry coming from? Is it true to who you are?" Whenever you feel your chest tighten over an expense, let that be a signal to run to me, not to run toward your darkest assumptions. You can start by setting aside just a small portion to give, even when you are not yet comfortable, simply to train your heart to believe that your life is not chained to the number in your account. You can also begin to say the truth to me. I am afraid of not having enough. I am afraid of losing. I am afraid of being abandoned, instead of painting over that fear with a pretty layer of spiritual language. When you dare to call your fear by its real name in my presence, it begins to lose its power, and you will find yourself a little lighter, bit by bit. I am also inviting you to practice a different kind of saving up, not hoarding worries, but storing up memories of my provision. Remember each time you thought, "This time it really is the end," and yet there was still a way out, still someone who helped, still a door that opened at the very last moment. Those moments were not accidents. They are the marks of my hand in your personal history. Whenever the fear of lack comes knocking, do not rush to welcome it in. Let the memories of my faithfulness step out to meet it first. Little by little, you will begin to see that what keeps you standing is not your defense plans, but a God who does not change. As you learn to retell to your own heart the stories of what I have already done, the fear of lack will no longer have the exclusive right to be the only voice inside you. And as you slowly step out of the mindset of never enough, you will begin to see another truth. What weighs you down is not only the fear of money, but the way you look at yourself through numbers and past stumbles. There are nights when you are not only worried about not having enough money, but also convinced that you are lacking worth, lacking ability, lacking a future. The fear of outward lack has slipped inside, leading you to measure yourself by debts, by failures, by missed opportunities. I am not bringing these things up to condemn you, but so that you can see that behind the fear of lack is a heart that has forgotten whose child it is. When you allow me to touch that fear, I will also touch your identity, so that you no longer look at yourself in the mirror of debt and failure, but in my eyes. And from there, we will continue together, talking about how I long to cleanse every label you have stuck onto your own life. More than once, I have seen you look at yourself in the mirror, and what you see is not your face, but red numbers and a line of past stumbles standing behind you. You do not introduce yourself as a child of God. You introduce yourself with half-joking, half-serious words like, I owe so much, I just fail at everything. At some point, debt and failure stopped being just part of your story and became the name you stuck on your own forehead. You walk into church, lift your hands and sing, but deep inside, you still believe you are second tier, the one I will prioritize last. I have whispered to you before, I have called you by name, you are mine, Isaiah 43:1, but the voice of debt and bitter memories often drowns it out. I do not ignore the reality of your hardship, but I do not accept that your identity be chained to things I have never used to define you. You have been pulled into the game of comparison that the world has set up for you, and slowly you forget whose field you are even playing on. Your friends post their successes, their new houses, new cars, while you sit comparing them with your stack of bills and conclude, I must be the one left behind. Every time a plan falls apart, you are not only disappointed with the situation, you pronounce judgment on yourself. I'm just born a failure. No matter how hard I try, it's useless. Those sentences become negative prophecies you speak over your own life, and you mistake them for cold, hard reality. But I have written a different reality. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. 2 Corinthians 5:17. When you cling to the label loser, you are refusing to step into the land of all things become new that I have already opened before you. Deeper still, the cords that tie up your identity are not only woven from debt, but from the judgments you once heard and believed. Maybe someone once said to you, you're only good at carrying debts, you always fail, and instead of bringing those words before me, you signed your name under each sentence, as if agreeing to the verdict. You repeated them so many times that they became the familiar voice in your head, and in the end you could no longer tell what was the voice of the past and what was my voice. The enemy does not need to do anything grand, it just has to whisper, that's right, you are a debtor, a failure, and you nod. Every time you agree with it, the invisible rope around your identity tightens a little more. I do not blame you for being weak, but I call you to step out of signing your name under words that have never come from your Father's mouth. I want to teach you a new way of living, not denying your debts, but refusing to let debt define you. Perhaps right now you are still paying in installments, still juggling things to get by, but that does not change the truth that you are still the child of the King, the one who is loved, redeemed, and called to walk in the light. I invite you to begin changing the language you use about yourself, little by little. Let there be fewer sentences like, "I only ever lose," "I'm just a burden," and replace them with, "I am learning," "I am being corrected by the Lord," "I am more than numbers." When you pray, do not only talk about the amounts you owe, talk about your willingness to give back to me the right to define who you are. You can write down what I have spoken about you in my word and put it where you can easily see it, so that whenever shame rises up, you do not rush to defend yourself, but let me speak up to defend your identity. Bit by bit, you will begin to feel the weight of "I am a failure" lifting off your shoulders. I also want to touch a very deep thought that you hardly dare to admit. My life probably only goes this far. When you believe that sentence, you unconsciously build a low ceiling over your future. Then adjust your dreams, your choices, even your prayers to match reality. You hesitate to ask for anything bigger because you think you are unworthy, not talented enough, not clean enough to receive more grace. But my child, if I did not reject you when you were still in sin, how could I abandon you just because you once failed financially or in your work? The issue is not whether I have enough to give you, but whether you dare to believe that you are no longer bound to the file labeled debt, failure. I am calling you home, not back to some beautiful past, but back to my arms, where your identity is washed clean of every old label. As your identity is gradually loosened from debt and failure, you will notice something interesting. Your emotions before me also begin to change. You will no longer pray only like someone begging for debt relief, but like a child discussing with their father the direction of their life. You will no longer run to me only in panic, but begin to learn how to remain, to listen, and to take small steps even when you do not yet see results. And right here, I will show you a kind of faith that is different from the flash-in-the-pan faith that flares up for a few emotional minutes and then dies down. For when you know who you are in me, you will no longer need constant spiritual emotional doses to believe that you are still loved. From that foundation of a healed identity, I will lead you deeper into a way of living by a faith that not only knows how to feel deeply, but also knows how to endure to the end. There are services, videos, and songs that make your heart burn, tears flow, hands lifted high, promises pouring out. But only a few hours later, everything evaporates like smoke. I see you move to tears. I know those emotions are real, but I also see this clearly. Many times, they do not go deep enough into the roots to become decisions and steps. You walk away from the screen with the feeling of having been touched, but you have not really let me touch your schedule, your spending habits, your attitude toward money and the future. Your faith is like a spark shooting up in the night, brilliant, but without enough wood to become a lasting flame. Then you look for another video, another sermon, as if searching for another dose of comfort, and the cycle repeats. I do not despise your tears, but I grieve when I see you stop at merely feeling close to God, without letting me lead you on the long road. The deeper reason is not that you are fake, but that you have become used to using spiritual emotions to fill the unhealed gaps inside. When your heart is empty, wounded, and quick to see itself as useless, you run to explosive moments to reassure yourself, I am still loved. That is not wrong, but if you stop there, you will always need a stronger dose, a more intense feeling, to believe that I have not left you. I have already shown you another way. My righteous one shall live by faith, not by emotions that rise and fall. Hebrews 10:38. That faith rests on my word and my character, not on how much or how little you feel me on any given day. As long as you do not yet know how to trust me even when you are not trembling, not weeping, you will remain dependent on those mountaintop moments alone. Behind emotional faith is a fragile foundation. My word is often heard but not yet plowed deep. Remember, I once told about two people building houses, one built on rock, one on sand. Both heard the word, but only the one who acted on it stood firm when the storm came, when the rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew and beat on that house, and it did not fall. Matthew 7:24-25. You are often quick to nod, quick to say, "I get it." But when I ask for a small change in your lifestyle, spending less carelessly, being faithful in little things, paying debts honestly, you feel it is too slow, too hard. Then when financial storms or work storms hit, you are confused. Why did God let me be shaken like this? The truth is, a house built with beautiful emotions but without the pillars of obedience will always tremble. I am not saying this to shame you, but so that you understand why you are so tired from having to rebuild the roof after every gust of wind. I am calling you back to a different kind of closeness with me, not loud, but steady. Instead of waiting until your emotions are overflowing to pray, learn to talk with me, even when your heart feels dry, when you're sitting there working on an Excel spreadsheet, when you're paying off each small installment. Instead of waiting for a sermon that hits you right where it hurts, to open the Bible, practice opening the Word every day, even if it's only a few verses, and then ask me, "What do you want to correct in me today?" Instead of just typing, "I receive," under a video, choose one concrete action to do differently for a day. Pick up the phone to apologize, cut out one unnecessary expense. Take the initiative to make a plan to pay off your debt. True faith does not need a big stage. It grows in small decisions that no one else sees. When you focus on these quiet steps of obedience, you will no longer be ruled by your emotional ups and downs. Little by little, you will begin to realize this. Faith is not only the feeling of being comforted by God, but also the strength that enables you to stand up and do what is right, even when you do not yet see results. When you cling to me through barren seasons, when your prayers are no longer just, "Lord, please make this pain go away," but become, "Teach me to walk in line with what you have spoken," the fire within you will change in nature. It will no longer be like fireworks that blaze for a few seconds and disappear, but like embers that burn steadily, enough to warm even the coldest corners of your life. And out of that kind of faith, you will see yourself less as a victim waiting for a miracle and begin to understand that I am inviting you to partner with me. For wherever there is genuine faith, there will always be concrete steps, new disciplines, and new attitudes in the way you manage, give, and work. And as you begin to take those small steps, we will touch a different area of your heart, the part that has long preferred to sit still, waiting for heaven's gates to open, yet hesitates to lift its feet and walk with me. There is something I need to say to you gently, but plainly. You often sit for a very long time in front of a closed door, waiting for me to turn the key, yet you do not bother to stand up and try the handle to see since when I already turned it. You pray for miracles, for a turning point, for a different life, but when I nudge you to start with something very concrete, getting up a little earlier, writing down your expenses, paying one small installment on time, being faithful in your current work, you feel it is not spiritual enough, not grand enough. So you choose to keep waiting for some dramatic, life-changing moment from heaven, just so you won't have to adjust the small things in ordinary days. You want to see the storehouse door swing wide open, but you don't want to learn how to keep the key straight. I do not say this to make you sad, but so that you may see. The miracles I work are often wrapped inside small, regular, quiet acts of obedience that you tend to overlook. If you look closely, you will see a very real tug of war in your heart. You long for overflowing abundance, yet your hands are clenched very tightly. You are afraid to give, afraid to share, afraid to offer, because you think, what if I don't have enough? Instead of letting that fear become a topic of conversation with me, you let it govern each decision. I have revealed the principles of my kingdom very clearly. Whoever wants to reap must sow, and whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. Luke 16:10. But you prefer to hear about the harvest more than to train yourself to be a sower. You step out of a service excited about multiplication, yet when you face a specific need right before you, a person in need of help, an opportunity to give, you pull your hand back. Not because you are evil, but because you do not yet believe that I am big enough to make up for what you let go of. I understand why you choose passivity, because to walk proactively means you must take responsibility, face the possibility of making mistakes, coming up short, or being judged by others. But if you only wait for God to act, then, if nothing changes, you can comfort yourself with, God hasn't given it yet, instead of realizing you have not followed what I already spoke. Deep down inside, you fear that if you obey one step I show you and still do not see results, your faith will shatter. So you choose to protect your faith by doing nothing risky, even though that means you never truly taste me in real-life situations. I see that fear. I do not despise you for it, but I invite you to look at it differently. Faith is not a fragile item to be locked away in a glass cabinet, but a muscle that only grows strong when you dare to use it, dare to step out. Therefore, I want to gently coax you into a different rhythm of life, where you see small acts of obedience as chances to train your heart, not as burdens you must strain to carry. You can start with very ordinary things, being honest in a small transaction, doing your work well even when no one praises you, consistently recording your income and expenses so you can see the truth clearly, setting aside a small but fixed portion to give. Each such step is a silent declaration. I trust that God is walking with me in every detail. When you do what is right, even without seeing a miracle happen immediately, you are laying solid bricks for the future I am building with you. I do not promise you a path without stumbles, but I do promise that every time you choose obedience over passivity, you will find me, right there, in a new peace, a new wisdom, and in a way of looking at money that is less frightening. One day, when you look back, you will realize this. Most of the big doors in your life opened not after one dramatic prayer, but after a long chain of times you quietly got up and did what I prompted you to do. You will see that you no longer wait for miracles like someone buying a lottery ticket, but live like someone learning to be a steward, knowing that every dollar, every opportunity, every relationship is something I have entrusted to you to handle with me. And when that posture forms in you, you will use the phrase, God will provide, less as a way to soothe yourself, and more as strength to face what you need to change. Because by then, you will begin to understand that I am not an excuse for you to dodge responsibility, but the one who walks with you, helping you dare to face reality, adjust your spending, your planning, your way of working. From there, I will gently lead you into a deeper place, learning to discern what is real, reliance on me, and what is merely you, using my name to hide from decisions you need to face. Have you ever noticed that there are times you say, God will take care of it, yet deep inside you are using that sentence like a blanket to cover the chaos you don't want to touch? You put off facing the bills, avoid opening the banking app, push aside the need to adjust your spending, then reassure yourself, well, God provides, it'll all work out anyway. On the surface it sounds very trusting, but what I see there is not faith, but a fear that has not yet been named. You worry that if you look reality in the eye, you will realize things have gone too far, so you choose to hide inside a few beautiful spiritual phrases. I do not blame you for being afraid, but I also do not want you to use my very name to build a curtain between you and the truth. Because true faith does not blind you to reality. It gives you courage to look at it together with me. In fact, part of the reason you are confused is that you have heard too many financial miracle stories without the backstage details. People tell you the climax, debts canceled, unexpected help received, a sudden opportunity opening up, but few tell you about the years they learned discipline, lived simply, and were faithful in little things. You start to believe that the normal path is emotional ups and downs, and the spiritual path is skipping ahead through one life-changing breakthrough. So, instead of letting me teach you how to plan, how to work, how to accumulate bit by bit, you wait for a day when God will step in and fix everything at once. Yet I have spoken very clearly. The one who is unwilling to work shall not eat too, Thessalonians 3:10, meaning, my provision is not separated from your responsibility and labor. When you forget that part, God will provide in your mouth can easily become a slogan that lulls your conscience to sleep. Sometimes, the root issue is that you are so afraid of guilt and failure that you want to turn everything into God's will to avoid having to take responsibility. You spend impulsively, invest without discernment, make decisions based on emotion. Then when everything collapses, you quickly say, maybe God is giving me a lesson. This is just how God wants me to be. Yes, I do use every circumstance to teach you, but that does not mean I am the author of every wrong choice. When you throw everything into one bag labeled God's will, you are unintentionally blurring the line between what I truly say and what you do out of your own will. I do not want you to live in shame, but I also cannot heal what you keep trying to cover with a spiritual label just so you won't have to change. Only when you dare to say to me, here is where I have spent unwisely, decided rashly, avoided responsibility, will grace be able to touch the root. I am inviting you into a more mature kind of trust, one that knows how to take my hand and still roll up your own sleeves. When you say, the Lord will provide, I want you to dare to ask right afterward, so what do I need to adjust today? I may nudge you to start tracking your expenses, to learn a new skill, to be more faithful in your work, or to have the courage to say no to purchases made only to prove your worth. I may lead you to learn how to save, to repay debts slowly but steadily instead of looking for a shortcut. None of these things lessen my supernatural power. On the contrary, they are the stage on which I reveal my wisdom and faithfulness in very ordinary steps. As you cooperate with me in each small decision, you will see that the Lord will provide is no longer just a phrase hanging loosely on your lips, but a real experience woven into a life that has order and responsibility. And as you gradually learn to discern between genuine trust and avoidance, wrapped in spiritual coloring, you will discover another facet you have long forgotten. I do not provide only so that you can just manage for yourself, but so that you may become a channel of blessing to others. Many times you seek signs and solutions, yet you rarely ask, Lord, through this situation, how can I learn to love and support others better? You wait for a day of abundance to start sharing, but abundance in me is not merely a number in your account. It is the posture of a heart that has been set free from fear and avoidance. Once you live in the union of trust and responsibility, of miracle and discipline, you will find yourself moving out of the territory of passive lack into the territory of being entrusted. There, every step you take and every choice you make can become my answer to someone else's need. And that is the land of abundance I have prepared for you from the beginning. I do not want you to simply sit there, feeling warmed in your heart, and then move on. I want you to truly respond. In you I am looking not only for open ears, but for a heart ready to say, I do not want to live the old way anymore. That is why, in this very moment, I invite you to do something very small, yet filled with spiritual meaning. Let your own hands type out a response below as a seal between you and me. You may write, "I receive the portion of blessing heaven has prepared for me," or any sentence with the same heart. You are no longer standing on the outside looking in. You are stepping into what I have prepared. Do not treat it as just a few words to fulfill a formality, because I see every line you write as the signature of your heart. As you type, I see, as you confess, all of heaven does not remain still. The angels sent to serve those who inherit salvation listen closely to the words you speak that align with my will. Even a small response of faith can resound loudly in the unseen realm, for what I measure is not the length of your sentences, but the sincerity of your heart. I know you may be thinking, "It's just a comment, what's the big deal?" You are used to imagining that spiritual matters must be something grand, with blazing light and dramatic miracles, and you forget that I always begin with very ordinary steps. To me, the moment you choose to open your mouth in agreement with what I am saying, you have already stepped over to a different side, the side of trust, the side of hope, the side of choosing not to let fear rule. When you type out your response, you are also speaking to your own soul. From today on, I will no longer sign my name on the verdict of lack. I sign my name on the Father's promise. That is a very real dividing line, even if your eyes cannot see it. In the past, each time you looked toward your financial future, you would unconsciously repeat, "It probably won't get any better. I'm used to not having enough." But now, you begin to train your lips to say something different. This shift is not a trick of self-suggestion. It is you intentionally positioning your heart on the side of what I have spoken. And you know, when the heart turns, the whole life slowly follows. I also want you to understand something important. This moment is not the result of you randomly scrolling into it or accidentally opening the wrong thing. It is an appointment I have marked. You may think you have wasted too much time, wandered in circles too long, made too many financial mistakes, pushed yourself into a dead end. But in my eyes, no moment is wasted if it brings you to the place where you are willing to open your heart for me to correct. The years you have scrambled, stumbled, and then gotten back up, which seemed to you like nothing but a weary stretch of days, I have quietly used to show you how limited your self-reliance is, so that today you are tired enough of the old way of living and ready for a new path. When you respond to me now, you are not starting from zero. You are offering me an entire worn-out journey so that I may turn it into fertilizer for a new season. What you call too late is, to me, simply just in time for you to let go of illusions about your own strength and truly learn to walk with me. So when you write your words of response, I long for you not to do it as a ritual to avoid missing a miracle, but as a direct whisper to me, I am tired of carrying things on my own. I want to learn the way of life the Father designed. Let it be the sign that you are stepping out of the zone of half-hearted trust where you often say, "God will take care of it," yet use that sentence to cover the mess you do not dare to face, and into the zone of true trust where you dare to say, "I believe you will care for me, and I am also willing to lay each decision, each habit, back under your hand." The words you write do not replace obedience, but they are the gateway that opens into a new journey. It is like a child taking the Father's hand and saying, "Please lead me," and only then beginning to lift their feet. I read each of your words as a small hand reaching toward me, and I, the one who has never broken a promise, will hold it firmly. I also want you to use this moment to trade places with the burden in your heart. For so long, whenever you think about money, debt, the future, your chest feels heavy, your head tight, your heart clenched. You are used to clutching everything to yourself, trying to arrange in your mind every worst-case scenario so that you might panic a little less if it really happens. But right at the moment you write your response, I want you to be aware that you are doing something different. You are shifting the weight from your shoulders into my hands. Take a deeper breath, not as an empty exercise in relaxation, but as an act of the soul. You breathe out words of condemnation toward yourself, and you breathe in what I speak. You breathe out, this is probably as far as I can go, and you breathe in, my word that I have plans of peace, not of disaster, to give you a future and a hope. You breathe out the memories of failed projects, missed contracts, months of shortage. You breathe in the truth that I do not define your worth by success or failure, profit or loss. Each breath in, this moment can become a silent prayer, and the words you type below are the seal, confirming that you are allowing me to change the way you see yourself and money. You may ask, but will a financial miracle really come? I know your heart longs for an answer like, I guarantee your account will increase tomorrow, but I love you too much to soothe you with cheap comfort. I can turn your situation around faster than you imagine. I can open doors you never expected. I can use others to provide for you in your most desperate seasons. I have already done this for you many times, even when you did not recognize it. But the greater miracle I am aiming at has never been merely the settling of money matters. The deepest miracle is when your heart is freed from a victim mindset, from constant fear, from the confusion between trusting God and avoiding responsibility. When you write your words of response as I invite you, you are saying yes to both dimensions, to the supernatural grace I am ready to pour out, and to the long process I will lead you through, where I bring you out of a reckless lifestyle, out of hasty decisions, out of spending just to fill the emptiness, out of debts born from trying to prove your own worth. I do not promise you that after the line you write, every bill will vanish like smoke, but I do promise that from the moment you sincerely respond, you will no longer have to face each number alone. I will step in with you not as an invisible sponsor who only makes miraculous transfers, but as a patient father who sits down beside you and shows you, one by one, what needs to be set in order. I will give you courage to open your eyes and see the whole picture, peace, so you are not swept away by panic, and wisdom to recognize the first step to take. Sometimes miracles begin very quietly, not with a notification that money has arrived, but with a night of sleep after months of sleeplessness, not with debts dissolving at once, but with you suddenly realizing they no longer define you as before. When you allow me to work inside, the outside will slowly change in a way that is healthy, lasting, and aligned with what I desire to do through your life. I also want you to recognize grace in this very moment. For many years, you have felt as if you were late for everything. Late compared to your friends, late compared to your family's expectations, late compared to the dreams of your childhood. You quietly concluded, God has probably already set aside the good portions for other people. All I have left is survival. But if I have let you hear this far, if your heart is still tender enough to tremble when I speak, that itself is proof that I have not put a period at the end of your story. I do not operate according to the comparison clock of human beings. The moment I intervene is not when you have measured up, but when you are honest enough to say, I need you, Father. During all those months and years you thought were wasted, I have been quietly using them to refine you, peeling away layer after layer of illusion and self-importance, softening you for this very day. When you choose to respond, today will no longer pass like any ordinary day. It becomes a milestone you will later look back on and say, that was when I decided I would not keep living the way I used to. So do not let doubt steal this moment from you. Doubt will whisper, what good will a few words do? All this sounds so cliché. You've promised to change so many times, and what came of it? I hear every one of those whispers, and I am not surprised. But I ask you one question. Which voice do you want to trust more? The voice that keeps pulling you back to where you have always been, or my voice, inviting you to step up to a new level. You do not need to feel some intense, extraordinary vibration before you are allowed to believe. You only need enough humility to say, I don't understand everything, but I choose to cling to your word rather than cling to my wounds. A small outward act like a single line of response can be the first step in a whole new series of inner movements. You begin to be honest with me, honest with yourself, and ready for me to rearrange everything. That is why I beg you, do not let this moment slip away, like all those times you quietly scrolled on and acted as if you never heard anything. I want you to know this. When you respond, you are not only activating something for yourself, you are also entering into something much larger that I am doing. A heart set free from the fear of lack, healed from confusing trust with avoidance, becomes a channel through which I can flow to many others. When you were still tightly bound by anxiety, you had strength only to struggle inside your own small corner. But the day you begin to walk in a more mature faith, you will see me use your very stories of debt, shortage, and stumbling as comfort and guidance for those who stand where you once stood. That is what true abundance is, not just having extra money to spend, but having peace to share, hope to pass on, and lived experience with me to uphold others. When you choose to say, I receive what heaven has set apart for me, I do not only hear one person asking for a blessing, I see a child being prepared to become a source of blessing. And I, with the full heart of a father, am waiting to walk with you on that journey beginning from this very moment when you humbly choose to respond. My child, every time your heart truly trembles and responds to what I am speaking, it is not just a passing feeling in the small room where you sit. The very instant you open your heart, heaven takes note, as when a small flame is lit in the night and is immediately sheltered and protected. The words you whisper, I believe, I yield, I return, I do not treat as wind that passes by, but as signatures you place on, a new covenant between you and me. There are many things in this life you cannot control, but there is one thing you can always do in this very moment. Choose to stand on the side of what I am revealing. When you lean your heart toward me, you are redirecting the flow of your whole life story, even if your eyes see no change yet. I say to you with all seriousness, yet with great gentleness, the moment you respond is never a small thing in my kingdom. Therefore, I do not want you to let this moment pass like so many others, when you feel moved, feel seen, and then close the screen and go on with the same old life. Now, while your heart is still burning with my word, use that very faith to mark this moment, like a farmer driving a new stake into his field. You can speak it out loud, you can whisper it inside, you can write it down by hand. I choose to believe, I choose to change, I choose to walk with you, and I will use those very words as the seal I place upon your new journey. I am the one who does not break covenant, does not go back on my word, does not forget what my own mouth has promised. What I send forth does not fall to the ground in vain. As it is written, so is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire. I myself will take responsibility for what I have spoken over your life. Your part is not to strain to make every promise come true, but to trust, to bind your heart to my word, and to let me lead you, step by step. When you open your mouth with a heart that places all its trust in me, it is not just self-soothing talk, it is an active agreement with what I am releasing over your life. Faith is not a passing rush of emotion, but a decision to stand in line with what I have ordained, even when your eyes see no sign at all. Every bold confession you speak, I will no longer run from responsibility. I am willing for God to teach me how to live again. I renounce using His name to cover my faults. Each of these is a step in cutting off your agreements with fear and avoidance. I do not want you to speak pretty words. I want you to speak as someone signing a document to receive a real inheritance, as a returning child reclaiming their true name. Do not keep a secret escape route in your heart. Do not make declarations while holding a big question mark behind them. I know you are weak. I know you are afraid, but when you dare to speak clearly, heaven responds to those words with opportunities, arrangements, and encounters designed specifically to help you step into what is new. That is why I plead with you. Do not switch off. Do not drift away. Do not pull your hand back too quickly from what I am touching. You think this is just a video, just a talk, just an anonymous moment in a long day, but I am using this very moment to lay an important stone in your new foundation. Every sentence you hear, every thought that is being stirred in you, lies along a clear thread I have been weaving for a long time in your life, from the times you wept and no one understood, from the nights you counted every coin, from the moments you called yourself useless. You are here not because you casually scrolled by, and certainly not because of some algorithm, but because I have arranged this time so that your life aligns with a part of my plan. There are things I cannot say to you in one short phrase, because if you only hear the first half and then leave, you will misunderstand. You will use half a truth to go on hiding. I need you to stay to the end, so this story will not be twisted by your old patterns of thought. Many of my secrets are not revealed in the easy, pleasant first minutes, but appear in the deeper parts, where only those who truly hunger choose to remain. I am not hiding good things from you, but I use perseverance as a sieve to test the heart. Those who only chase feelings will leave when the excitement fades, but those who truly want to be changed will stay, even when they feel exposed, confronted, reminded of corners they dislike facing. I say to you with a gentle certainty, if you choose to stay to the end, I will show you what you have been asking for all this time without understanding why it has not broken open yet. I have not come just to give you a few comforting words and then leave you alone in the wilderness. I have come to place in your hand a key, and that key is often given at the end, when you have grown quiet enough, humbled enough, ready enough to hold it without misusing it. If you walk away halfway, you do not just miss some information, you miss the very clue that opens the door I have long prepared for you. I look around and see so many people starting out just like you. They listen, they are moved, they shout, "Amen," they take notes, they share the first part with great excitement. But I have also seen not a few who switch off halfway, right when my word begins to touch the areas they don't want to mention: responsibility, discipline, wastefulness, wrong decisions. There are people who gather for themselves many promises, yet refuse to walk the whole way with me, so those promises stay on paper, in notebooks, in screenshots, instead of becoming lived experience. I do not want you to be just someone who starts well. I want you to become someone who holds firmly till the end, Hebrews 3:14. Someone who stays long enough for my word to travel from your ears to your heart, and from your heart out into your hands and feet. That is why I plead with you not to pull yourself away from the very words being spoken now. Each word is like a tablet I prescribe in a precise dosage. You cannot take half the prescription and then demand to be healed. Right now, as you are still sitting here, I am quietly at work inside you in ways that even you yourself may not yet recognize. I'm turning over those layers of soil hardened by doubt, peeling away the moss of avoidance, clearing away the broken fragments left by all the times you've exhausted yourself with self-blame. The chains you have grown so used to that you almost consider them a part of your body. The thoughts like, "I always fail, I only know how to make a mess," I am loosening them, little by little. You may feel confused, uncomfortable, as if someone were rearranging a room you have lived in, with clutter for far too long. But my child, if I do not clear the ground, every seed I sow about abundance, about change, about a new identity, will once again be choked by weeds. I did not come merely to decorate an old patch of land. I came to plow, to realign, to uproot, and only then to plant something new. If you stop now, if you turn away, if you switch off with the thought, "This is enough already," you will be like a farmer who has labored to plow the ground, sow the seed, water the field, and then, come harvest, leaves the field behind because he is tired of waiting. You have endured many years of lack, many nights of anxiety, many seasons of planting without seeing a harvest, to come to this very day when I am beginning to speak to you more deeply, more clearly, more directly. To stop at this moment would not only be to waste a good lesson, but to turn your back on the harvest you yourself once begged me for when you prayed, "Lord, please change my life. Please break these destructive cycles." I do not want to see you give up just because you are tired or because I am touching the sore spots, and then a few months from now cry again that nothing has changed. You have come right to the threshold of a new journey, with just a little more perseverance, a little more humility, a little more courage to stay. You will see what I am about to complete. I understand that you are afraid to face the current reality, afraid to admit that all this time you have used my name as an excuse not to change. I am not exposing your faults to shame you. I am drawing back the curtain so that you no longer have to live in the shadows of beautiful-sounding excuses. When you dare to stay, dare to listen all the way through, dare to let my word shine on everything from your wallet to your habits, from your thoughts to your daily schedule, that is the moment you stop hiding behind the phrase, "The Lord will take care of it," and step into the light with me. The light does not come to hurt you, but to show you clearly where you are, so that I can take you by the hand and lead you, not drag you along unwillingly. If you are willing to remain in that light, you will begin to see everything more clearly. What is my part? What is your part? Where you need to wait and where you need to move. Picture your life as a field I have bought with the very blood of my Son. That field has been left fallow for a long time, overrun with the weeds of fear, laziness, avoidance, and waste. Today I have not come just to say, "I love you, I will take care of you," and then walk away. I have come with a hoe, with seed, with water, and with light. I am ready to work with you, but I will not do your part for you in pulling up weeds and tending the land. Every decision you make today, choosing to stay and listen to the end, daring to rethink the way you spend, daring to make plans with me instead of hiding each of these, is one of the first strokes of the hoe on that field. It is tiring, it is sweaty, but it is the only road that leads to the day when you walk in the midst of harvest and no longer have to wonder why others have it and you do not. I know there are moments when you ask yourself, if I truly believe, why does God still require so much of me? Why doesn't He just give me a miracle, wipe out all my debts, change all my circumstances in an instant? My child, if I only erased your debt without teaching you a new way of living, those numbers would soon return in another form, because the root in your heart has not yet been touched. I love you too much to deal only with the surface. I want you not just to rejoice because you were rescued once from deep waters, but to learn how to swim, how to read the currents, how to avoid the flood, how to build your house where I show you. That is why I emphasize to you the importance of staying until the end, of listening through to the part where I begin to speak about responsibility, discipline, and maturity. Those are not appendices to your spiritual life. They are its heartbeat, its backbone. You may feel small, weak, and lacking in perseverance, but I am not asking you to become a hero in a single day. I am only inviting you, this time, not to run away, choose to sit a little longer, to be a little more honest with me, to dare to say, I have hidden behind the Lord will provide so I wouldn't have to change, but today I will not do that anymore. The very moment you say that, the moment you decide that, angels receive their orders, circumstances are rearranged by my hand, fitting doors will begin to open, unhealthy relationships will gradually fall away, opportunities to learn and grow will appear. You may not see everything flip overnight, but if you keep fastening your heart to my word, things will shift, one by one. And one day you will look back and realize, change did not begin the moment you first heard the message, but the moment you decided not to disconnect, not to quit halfway, not to use my name to hide, but to step into truth with me. So, my child, stay with me in this moment like a son or daughter sitting beside their father, choosing not to leave the table just because the next course is one they don't like as much. Let me finish speaking. Let me touch the deepest places. Let me complete the work I have begun in your heart today. You have grown weary, longing for a life no longer marked by lack, no longer going in circles of debt, no longer using faith like a cloak to cover negligence. And I, too, have been waiting for the day you would allow me to go this deep. Do not turn away when I am already so near. Do not leave your own field out there when the grain is beginning to ripen. Do not push yourself back into years of going in circles when I am opening a straight path before you. If you take my hand and walk on, I promise you, not a single tear shed in this season, not a single moment you spend staying in sincerity will be wasted. I will use it all to weave a new story, where the Lord will provide is no longer a slogan to hide behind, but the very rhythm of your daily breath, a rhythm full of grace and full of responsibility, both supernatural and utterly real, right in the middle of your ordinary life. I see the frantic swirl inside your heart. I hear even the sighs you don't dare put into words. Often you scold yourself for being weak and impatient, but my child, I am not surprised by those feelings. I know you have waited so long, heard so many promises, lived through too many almost breakthroughs that slipped away, so your soul is tired and your limbs feel heavy. You want everything to change at once, for the debt to vanish at once, for your work to flourish at once, for the road ahead to be clear at once. And when you don't see that, you easily think I am moving too slowly, that I have forgotten, that I am leaving you standing alone. But my child, I do not move according to human haste, nor am I swept up in the pressure of time the way you are. I am the one who set the flow of the seasons. I know exactly when a seed has had enough time to sprout, when a field has reached harvest, when a heart is ready to receive something greater without being crushed by it. There are things you call delay that in my eyes are right on time. You often ask, if God has already decided to bless me, why doesn't He just give it now? But you do not see the whole picture as I do. If I place the full weight of a blessing on your shoulders when the inner muscles of your character are not yet strong, that blessing could become a burden that grinds you down. If I open a large financial door while your heart is still ruled by fear, you will carry that fear into the new room, and it will multiply into pressure, pride, or chaos. Because I love you, I choose to work through a process not because I am weak, but because I honor your limits and your pace of growth. I do not make mistakes. I do not miss the beat. I do not arrive before you are willing to grow up, and I will never arrive even a second late compared to the best moment for your soul. When I tell you that I am working right now, it does not mean that you will suddenly see everything with your natural eyes. It means that on a deeper level, in a wider context you have not yet touched, I am quietly arranging every detail. While you think everything is standing still, there are conversations, opportunities, and movements being prepared, so that one day you will call it a coincidence, while I call it the moment I press the button. I am sending the right people into your orbit, a mentor, a manager, a partner, a client, a spiritual brother or sister. I use unexpected meetings, chance pieces of information, and seemingly casual reminders to assemble a pathway for you. Even the closed doors you once blamed me for are often the way I turn you away from a dead end you have not yet seen. I am working both in the world around you and in your heart, so that when the two meet, you will not only have an opportunity, but you will also be mature enough to seize it without losing yourself. Every time you choose to remain in my word, even if it is simply by listening, meditating, and keeping it in your heart, you are allowing me to widen the space in which I can act in your life. You think that sitting still and listening is passive, but in reality, that is when your soul is tuned to the right frequency. I have said, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Christ, which means that every moment you persist in letting my word soak into you, you are building a pipeline for the flow of miracles to reach you. What matters is not how many sentences move your emotions, but that you attach your life to what I speak, to the point that even when your feelings rise and fall, you do not leave the place where I have set you. That attachment is a silent but profound test of faith. Do you believe that I am still at work when nothing new seems to happen? Do you believe that, even when you see no movement, the bricks are still being laid under the ground? Do you believe that I have prepared a portion uniquely for you, and that you are not merely surviving on someone else's leftovers? I want you to understand that my word is not only a promise for a distant future, but a reality unfolding even in the very moment you are listening. When you open your heart to receive it, I do not merely stir your emotions and then stop. I begin dismantling the distorted thoughts and twisted beliefs you have accumulated over so many years. In the moment you are willing to admit, Lord, I have mixed up trusting you with running away from responsibility, that in itself is already a miracle, because not everyone dares to be that honest. When you brace yourself to face the numbers, to face your debts, to face your reckless spending habits, and you whisper, please teach me again from the beginning, I begin to straighten the inner spine within you. The miracle is not only an unexpected sum of money appearing, but also a new courage, a new clarity, a new attitude toward things that seemed so familiar. A bill, an investment decision, an invitation to give. The longer you remain in connection with me through prayer, through my word, through small steps of obedience, the more you draw the invisible world closer to your visible world. It is not because you move me or win me over, but because you willingly open the door for me to intervene more deeply. I do not force your soul. I do not shove open the door of your life. I knock and I wait. Each time you say yes to me, even if it is only yes, I will sit down and record my spending instead of scrolling on my phone a bit more. Or, yes, I will pay this small debt on time even though no one is reminding me. You are pulling the hour of my revealing nearer to your present moment. You cannot see that distance on any map, but I see it very clearly. There are people who give up when there is only a short stretch left before I switch on the light. My heart aches when they turn away, not because I have lost something, but because they have abandoned what I labored to prepare for them. I long for you not to be like that. I long for you to believe that each day of faithfulness, each honest decision, each time you choose to face things instead of running away, is shortening the distance between the promise and its fulfillment. In the near future, I will let you recognize a key that all this time you assumed was reserved only for the rich, the shrewd, or those who are fortunate. That key is not a trick for getting rich quickly, not a secret formula for explosive business success, and not a money attraction technique the world likes to glorify. It is a fresh way of seeing that the kingdom of heaven has regarding money, work, and your being entrusted rather than bound. That key may take the form of a principle that seems very ordinary. Honor every coin I entrust to you. Place me above money. Give, even when you are not yet in surplus. Do not let any debt force you to bow your head in hiding. It may begin as a simple thought. I am no longer a victim, I am a steward. But when you truly live it out, it will redirect the entire financial flow in your life. With that key, you will no longer chase after hollow promises, nor be paralyzed by the fear of, what if there is not enough? because you will know you are walking in my ways. The world cannot hand you this key, because it is not born of human wisdom. The world can teach you how to optimize profit, how to grab opportunities, how to compete without mercy, but it cannot give you a free heart that is not ruled by money. The world can offer you strategies for escaping outward poverty, but it cannot touch the inner poverty, the place where you always feel lacking, always feel inferior, always feel you must strain yourself to prove your worth. Only I can touch that place. The key I give does not only open external doors, but first opens the door inside your heart, so that you no longer see yourself as a debtor or a failure, but begin to see yourself as one who has been entrusted. One who is entrusted does not clutch money as if it were everything, yet does not throw away responsibility either. They walk in the awareness. Everything I have comes from the Father, and I will use it in a way that pleases Him. But my child, that key is not for those who merely enjoy a good story and then leave it at that. I do not entrust it to those who quit halfway, or to those who only want God to rescue quickly while refusing to be corrected. I have said very clearly that I give a crown to those who remain faithful to the very end. This does not mean you must be perfect before you can receive it. It means you are willing to stay with me, even when the process takes longer than you hoped, even when it costs you the price of changing habits, of apologizing, of accepting the need to relearn from the beginning. Every time you want to give up, I will call your name again, remind you of the road we have walked together, remind you that you have come too far to go back and become who you once were. I never grow weary of gently urging you to stand up one more time. I only long that you do not shut your ears, do not lock your heart, and do not tell yourself, surely this is as far as it goes. Therefore, in this very moment while you are reading these words, while your heart is being touched in its deepest places, I am stretching out my hand to you. I do not promise you that your debts will vanish overnight, but I promise to lead you step by step out of chaos, out of confusion, out of the layers of spiritual disguise you have used to avoid responsibility. I promise to walk with you as you learn a new way of living, both knowing how to wait for my grace and knowing how to live with order, with discipline, and with practical love toward those who need you. I promise that when you are tired, I will comfort you. When you are lost, I will draw you back. When you win even a small victory, I will smile over you and give you strength to keep going. Let these words not merely skim across your mind, but take root in your heart and turn into real choices tomorrow, because through those very choices, you will begin to see that my provision is not a vague idea, but a very real stream, bringing you out of the land of passive lack to the place where you can stand firm, lift your head high, and become an instrument of blessing to others who, in their turn, are wandering and afraid just as you are today. My child, what I desire from you in this moment is not grand promises, nor emotions that surge for a few minutes and then fade away. I simply ask that you calmly remain fully present with me until this part of the story I am writing for your life comes to the end of its chapter. The fact that you are still sitting here, still reading these lines, is not some meaningless coincidence. You could very easily close this, scroll past quickly, or tell yourself, I'll come back another time, but you did not. You chose to stop, to listen, to open your heart just a little more, and that seemingly small choice is actually the doorway into a new season, the moment you decide not to give up, halfway, not to run from the truth, not to hide behind phrases like God will handle it all, just to avoid facing reality. That is the moment you are unconsciously saying to me, I truly want to change. I see that, and I value it far more than you imagine, because it is a sign that your heart is ready to receive something deeper than fleeting emotions. Real transformation, a new direction, a new identity that I have patiently waited for you to be mature enough to step into. What I am preparing for your life is not a few scraps of temporary comfort, nor a little luck so you can keep living the same old way, but an intervention that goes far beyond anything you could imagine. You are used to having to calculate and ration everything, measuring every portion carefully, so it is natural that, without realizing it, you sometimes think I am limited in the same way you limit yourself, that I only give you just enough to survive. But I am not the one who merely helps you get by. I am the one who can turn the whole course of your life around at a moment you never saw coming, the one who knows how to take your tangled, patched together, weary years and turn them into a solid new foundation. I do not only touch your wallet, I touch your mind, your habits, your emotions, your relationships, until one day you will look back and be startled, asking yourself, how could I have changed this much? What I want to do in you is far greater than simply paying off one debt so you can go back to living exactly as before. I want to pull up by the roots everything that has bound you all this time, so you can come to know what true freedom in me really is, a freedom that no longer trembles at the mention of money, or the future, or the past. You have not yet realized this. What I have prepared for you is no longer as distant as you think. It is not some vague concept hidden in a foggy future. It is already drawn so close that you only need to turn around to touch it. Throughout the time you thought I was silent, I have quietly arranged things your eyes cannot yet see, connected people you have not yet met, and opened doors your mind at this moment cannot even picture. From my side, the gears are already in motion. The current has already begun to flow, like an underground stream rising steadily beneath the surface, just waiting for the right time to break forth. You have often thought you were standing still, but in reality many things have already shifted. They just have not yet shown themselves outwardly. The reason I allow this slowness is not to punish you, but to give your heart time to learn the difference between true trust and a spiritual-looking way of running away. If I were to give you a life-changing moment while your mindset remained exactly the same, you would use that miracle to slip right back into your old patterns, and the cycle would continue. I love you far too much to do that to you. In the steps ahead, I will gradually open your eyes, not with a sudden lightning strike that makes you instantly understand everything, but through those moments when you suddenly look at an old issue from a completely new angle. You will begin to see why there are areas where you always waste, why there are relationships that constantly drain you, why you so often rush into decisions and then regret them. I will gently show you the blind spots you never knew you had. You used to think you were only lacking money or opportunity, but I will lead you to discover that what you truly lack is a right view of me, of yourself, and of what I have entrusted you to steward. When my light shines into those hidden corners, you will clearly see which habits you must lay down, which patterns of thought must be stopped, and which phrases you must no longer speak over yourself. It will not be a comfortable process, but I will be right there beside you, holding your hand as you walk through it, so you will not have to face the truth in shame or panic. At the same time, I will also widen your heart to grasp truths that you have heard many times, but always felt were far away. There are truths you have listened to dozens of times. I love you, I provide for you, I am a good father, I am the shepherd. But because you have been wearing the distorted lenses of debt, of shame, of fear, all those words have passed through your ears, brushed across your mind, without ever really reaching your heart. As I slowly remove those warped lenses, you will read familiar words with a different heart, as if for the first time you truly understand that God is Father, not a strict boss who is always demanding results. You will begin to receive my correction not as an indictment, but as the guidance of a father who does not want you to keep hurting yourself. And in that new place of knowing, you will dare to let me go deeper into the areas you have been hiding for so long. The shame over financial mistakes, the ache of having to borrow, the fear of being looked down on, the pain of comparing yourself to others. I will walk into every corner of that inner world, not to replay your failures, but to tend, untangle, and set you free. Little by little, you will realize that the things you could never reach by your own strength, wisdom, discipline, peace, generosity, are beginning to appear in you like strange, new seeds. Before, whenever you tried to force yourself to save, you always felt tense and pressured. Now you will find joy in cutting out an unnecessary expense because you know you are walking with me in reordering your life. Before, it was very hard for you to say no to invitations to spend or invest rashly because you were afraid of missing an opportunity. Now you are calmer, asking me first before you decide. And if the answer is, not yet, you are no longer thrown into panic as before. Before, you were afraid to open up to anyone about your real situation. Now you are beginning to dare to be honest with a few people I have placed beside you to receive counsel, intercession, and even those hard to hear but necessary corrections. All of these are signs that grace is at work in concrete ways, no longer just a concept you hear about in sermons. My child, the very moment you are living in right now is the place where your long days of waiting can be transformed into the first days of seeing real fruit. I do not waste a single tear, a single time you bow your head with a sigh, a single whisper of, "Lord, I can't take it anymore." I have gathered all of them up to use them as bricks in the foundation of what I am about to build. What I am about to reveal is not some trick to make you feel less afraid for a moment, but an entire journey of raising you from a fearful victim into a mature steward. I will let you experience how I rescue you from some very specific dead ends. It may be a debt unexpectedly resolved, a new job opened, an unforeseen door, but at the same time, I will also teach you how to live so that you do not walk right back into the same dead ends again. That is the true miracle, not only changing the circumstances around you, but changing the person you are inside so that even new circumstances cannot drag you back into the old spiral. I know you have often been disappointed by loud promises of overnight breakthrough, when in reality nothing changed except a few minutes of excitement. And so you've become more cautious toward anything that sounds grand. I am not inviting you into an illusion. I am not telling you that by tomorrow morning every debt will vanish, every wound will disappear, every wrinkle will be erased. I am calling you into a truth far more worthy than those illusions. The truth that I am walking with you step by step, and because I am faithful, these small steps will most certainly lead to real transformation. You may not know the exact day or hour, but you can be sure that not one act of obedience from you is forgotten, not one right choice you make is meaningless. This is the meeting point between your waiting and my working. When you choose to stay, to trust, to do your part, and I do the part you cannot. Maybe today your outward circumstances do not look very different from yesterday, but the very fact that you no longer use God will provide as a blanket to cover all the chaos, and instead begin to let me hold your hand as we tidy things up piece by piece. That alone is already a giant leap in your spiritual life. This is the moment when your faith stops being a child demanding gifts and begins to become a son or daughter building together with the Father. And as you step into that place, you will understand more deeply why I have told you that what I am about to pour out over your life goes far beyond anything you have ever dreamed. For the blessing I give does not stop at "you suffer less," but moves on to "you are so supplied that you can lift others up," becoming the answer to someone else's prayer. I am preparing you for such a life where your painful old experiences are no longer stains of shame, but living evidence that I can step into any situation and cause it to bear good fruit. So stay in this journey with me, even when you feel it is slow, when you are tired, when it seems like nothing spectacular is happening. Your perseverance is the rich soil where the seeds I sow can take deep root. Do not despise today's small decision to keep listening, to keep letting your heart stay soft before me, to keep rearranging your life according to what you are receiving. It is exactly these things that are making way for what you have not yet seen. One day, when you are standing in a different place than where you are now, you will look back and remember the moment you did not switch off, did not give up, did not run away, but chose to stay with me to the very end, and you will understand. That was when the waiting began to be turned into fulfillment, when the story that seemed stuck turned into a new chapter, not because you became more capable, but because you let me truly be Lord of every part of your life. My child, right now I long for you to pause for a moment, not to rush to scroll on, not to let another notification, another anonymous ping steal this moment away. All day long, your mind has been pulled in every direction. Work, messages, worries about money, quiet comparisons in your heart. Now, I want it to be just you and me. I do not need you to act fervent. I do not need you to force yourself to look more spiritual. I only need you to be still, to open your heart, and to listen all the way through. What I am saying to you is not just a few comforting lines to ease your tension so you can jump back into the same old whirlwind. I am laying the foundation for a new stretch of road in your life. And that road begins with a very small decision. Will you choose to stay with me? I want you to understand that the words you are hearing are not just fragments of text floating across a screen, but seeds I am placing into your heart. Every word I speak carries life, carries a direction, a correction, a protection prepared specifically for you. But like a seed, it does not grow automatically just because it has been thrown into the soil. It needs time, shelter, and care. If you only skim, nod along for form's sake, feel moved for a moment, and then let everything slip away, what you receive will only be a passing feeling, not real transformation. I do not want you to just taste the surface of blessing. I want this seed to sink deep into your thinking, into the way you see money, into the way you talk to yourself. That only happens when you decide, I will remain in the Lord's word, no matter how my feelings rise or fall. There are people who once heard my voice the way you are hearing it today, but they lost patience in the middle of the journey. They wanted quick results, a visible change after just one prayer, one moment of resolve. When they did not see everything turn around instantly, they rushed to conclude, God must not be doing anything, and they went looking for another word, another video, another channel. And I stood there, with the seed I had already sown, waiting for them to return and tend it. I do not want you to repeat those tracks. You are living in an age where everything is fast, urgent, fleeting, and because of that, faith so easily gets turned into a chain of emotions constantly being switched to the next channel. I am teaching you the opposite, the power of abiding, the power of sitting down, pondering, chewing slowly on what I say, letting it soak into those hidden places in your heart that you usually avoid. You may think, it's just a few minutes watching a video, how could it be that important? But I want you to know that in my hands, no moment is by accident. I have seen you struggle through cramped, difficult days, heard the sighs you stifled, watched you pretend to be fine in front of others, when inside you just wanted to give up. I know exactly when you would be tired enough to want something to hold on to, and I chose this very moment to bring you here, so you could hear these words I have set apart for you. This is not leftover time you are using to kill time. This is a quiet appointment I have arranged with you, in the midst of thousands of other things fighting for your attention. When I set up an encounter like this, it means I have something very specific to give you, not vague, not general. In my realm, everything is recorded, everything has its time, everything has meaning. I have written your story not with shaky, aimless pencil lines, but with deliberate strokes, even when all you can see are eraser marks and crossouts. I know how many times you have pleaded about your finances, your work, the debts pressing down on your shoulders. I am not deaf to those cries for help, nor am I indifferent to the pressure you carry. When I say I have prepared an intervention for your life, it does not mean that from now on you will live like you've hit the jackpot, without cares or concerns. It means that in heaven, I have signed off on a new process for you, a journey in which you and I will walk together, step by step. I am not sending down a nameless envelope of money. I am sending light, so you know how to walk, how to think, how to decide, in order to step out of the old vicious cycle. You may ask, if everything has already been decided in heaven, why do I still have anything to do? Because I did not create you as a machine that only receives commands. I created you as a child with a will, with responsibility, with the ability to collaborate with me. What I give is not a free ticket for you to lie there and watch your life magically transform. What I offer is an invitation to walk with me on a new road. The guidance about finances, about work, about how to use what you have, these I pour out when you are close to me, when you are willing to sit still, open your heart, and let me adjust your perspective. If you walk away halfway through, you will only hear the beginning of the story, and when you do not see the results you hoped for, you will be disappointed and think that I have forgotten you. The truth is, I am waiting for you in the next part, where I show you specific steps to take into that change. So right now I invite you to do something simple, yet very important. See this moment as a milestone in our relationship. You may not remember everything you have just heard, but you can write down one thing that I have touched deepest in your heart today. You can say to me in your heart, I agree to step into the process you have for me, even though I do not yet understand it all. That is how you seal your faith onto my word. Faith is not only in the sentence, I believe God will take care of me. It is found in your courage to change something very specific after hearing me speak. It might be the decision not to avoid looking honestly at your finances, the decision to be truthful with someone about your current situation, the decision to adjust a spending habit. When you do one small thing because you trust me, you are signing the receipt that says, I have received your word and I will walk in it. I also want you to understand why I encourage you to share what you have received, not to chase views or to prove that you are more spiritual than others. When you pass on a word I used to lift you up, you are allowing me to extend the flow of blessing beyond the small circle of your own life. I did not make you to be a pond that only knows how to store water for itself. I have called you to be a channel to receive from me and to flow on to others. Every time you tell someone that I have corrected you, taught you something, opened your eyes in some way, you are sowing a new seed into that person's heart, and like every other seed, it will sprout at the right time. You do not know who will be awakened, who will be comforted, who will turn back to me because of a single sentence you share, but I know. I see clearly each time you choose to obey when no one is watching, choose to speak words that build up instead of complaining, choose to encourage others even while you yourself have not yet succeeded the way you desire. When you live as a sower, you will experience a principle I have built into creation. Whatever you let go of from your hand out of love for me will never disappear. It will return to your life in some way, at some time, more than it was at first. Whatever you share, even if it is just a testimony, a word of encouragement, a song, a prayer, becomes drops of water feeding the river I am using to water dry places. And have you noticed, when you encourage someone who is confused about finances or failure, you hear those very words echo back inside your own heart. You are watering yourself without even realizing it. I rejoice when you receive blessing, but I rejoice even more when I see you glad because you have become part of the plan I am using to touch many others. I want you to be at peace about this one thing. What I speak is never empty. It is not flowery language to please your ears, nor content to fill the silence. From the very beginning, with nothing more than my word, I called light, seas, mountains, and every living thing into being. Even now, my word still carries that same power, but the goal is no longer to create another sun or another star. It is to rebuild your heart and reorder a life that seems hopelessly tangled. Every time I say to you, do not be afraid, come back, I am with you, those words are not just there to soothe you, they are reshaping the way you feel, the way you think, the way you respond. When I speak, I am touching invisible doors inside you, doors that have been shut by shame, by guilt, by past financial failures, by the constant fear of not having enough, and I am opening them one by one. I know there have been seasons when you thought I was silent, when you felt as if your prayers vanished into the void. You have heard people say that the word of the Lord never returns void, but in reality, all you have seen is yourself waiting and waiting, with nothing changing. My child, many times what I am doing is not measured by how much more money you see, but by the fact that fear of money no longer controls you. Many times, the miracle I work is not wiping out all your debts in a single night, but giving you the courage to face them, to put things in order, to negotiate, to pay them down little by little with a heart at peace. Many times the door I open is not an instant dream job, but a small opportunity for you to practice faithfulness and a servant's spirit. All of these are the fruit of my word quietly at work within you, even if it does not roar or glitter the way you once imagined. Today, I am not speaking to you so that you feel better for a moment and then drift back to where you were. I am speaking because I have decided not to let you go on living in the old pattern, afraid, avoiding, hiding behind the phrase, God will take care of me, while refusing to walk with me. I want to write the next chapters of your life in a different way, where you are no longer just the one who runs to receive emergency help in a crisis, but a mature child who asks for my counsel before deciding, who allows me to shape how you steward, how you plan, how you use the gifts I have given you. I do not look at you as a hopeless case needing constant rescue, but as a steward, I am training to become trustworthy. I know there is much I, myself, have placed in you, potential, grace, capacities you have not yet dared to believe you carry. Lack is only part of the setting. It is not the final title I intend to write over your life. So, my child, if there is one thing I want you to carry with you after all these words, let it be this. I am inviting you not only to believe that I can change your story, but to step into the process with me. Do not walk away as if you have just listened to a good piece of content. Walk away as someone who has just heard a call to mobilization from their Father and begins to be willing to adjust their steps. Give me not only a few minutes of emotion, but your days and weeks, the hidden decisions that almost no one sees. When you remain with me, not everything will suddenly become easy, but everything will gradually move into its right place. And one day, when you look back, you will understand. It was not some impulsive moment that changed your life, but the one who called you, who kept you, who patiently led you from this small moment today, when you chose to stay and said, yes, I want to walk with you to the very end. When I speak, all of heaven does not stand still. My word does not drift lazily through the air like a passing breeze. It goes out like an arrow with a clear intent, aimed precisely at the target I have chosen. The angels are not sitting idly in uncertainty. They are sent out, carrying commands from my throne, to rearrange what concerns you, your future, and the needs that seem far beyond your strength. On earth, you may be sitting quietly, listening to a video, But in heaven, at the very moment my word touches your ears and your heart, movement has already begun. You are not hearing a word spoken just because. You are standing under the decree of the Creator of heaven and earth, the one who said, "Let there be," and the universe came into existence. Do not take this moment lightly, my child. It may look small in the eyes of the world, but it is the very moment heaven records that you are opening your heart for me to speak into the hardest area of your life. I want you to grasp a truth the enemy does not want you to understand. What I have planned for your life is not something I just thought of today. I did not wait until you were in turmoil over debts, over not making ends meet, and then hurriedly put together an emergency plan for you. Long before you knew what it was to worry about rent, utilities, and food, I had already seen the whole road you would walk, the parts where you would stumble, the stretches where you would stray, the deep pits you would fall into. In that light, I prepared way out moments for you, doors you have never even imagined. So when I speak to you about provision and about miracles in the area of your finances, I am not offering a vague promise to soothe you. I am reminding you of something that has long been signed into my purposes. You have heard, "My God will supply all your needs," Philippians 4:19. But today, I am not just saying you in general. I am calling you by name and placing that sentence right into your own story. In eternity, more things are written down than you realize. Your name is not only recorded in the book of life, the seasons when you need to be rescued, the periods when chains of lack must be broken off, you are not overlooked either. I see clearly the days you sit counting every last coin, the nights you lie awake turning from side to side, not daring to tell anyone the full truth, the moments you force a smile and say, "I'm fine," while your heart is trembling. I do not treat lightly a single tear that falls because of the financial pressure weighing on you. But I also do not want those tears to become the new normal of your life. So, in my wisdom, I have issued a decree. At a certain appointed time, I myself will draw near and proclaim change over this area. As you choose to remain with me in this very hour, you are standing right on the threshold of the time I have set. What I am preparing for you is not a magical, disappearing act that erases all consequences, so you never have to take responsibility for what you have done, nor is it a winning lottery ticket that lets you keep spending as before without facing any results. Financial miracles in my eyes are not what advertisements or exaggerated stories often portray. I do want to deliver you from lack, but I also want to free you from the mindsets and habits that pulled you toward lack in the first place. When I speak, I am both breaking the yoke, pressing down on your shoulders, and rebuilding within you a new heart that loves discipline, that values every coin I entrust to you, that uses money as a tool for my kingdom instead of letting it become chains that bind you. So when I declare that my provision is being released over you, it is not only about money coming in, it is a process by which I am healing you both outwardly and inwardly. From where you are sitting, everything may look exactly the same. The room is unchanged. The bills have not disappeared. The balance in your account has not leapt up in an instant. But, my child, what matters does not begin with what the natural eye can see. In the part you cannot see, I am rearranging lines of connection, doors and relationships. People you have not thought of for a long time suddenly remember you. Opportunities that seemed closed now show a narrow opening. Ideas you once wrote down and abandoned are warmed back to life by my breath. You may think, what a coincidence, but nothing is coincidence once I have given the command. I know how to touch the hearts of your employers, your bosses, your partners, your family members in ways beyond your control. I can place in them a favor toward you, not so that you lean on human beings, but so that you see clearly. When I speak, even the environment around you begins to adjust itself to that word. At the same time, I am stirring within you. Thoughts you once pushed down in fear, I could never do that, are being called back up by me. Abilities you buried after 1 or 2 failures are being brought to your attention again like an invitation. Try again, but this time walk with me. In the way I show you, habits you used to excuse with, "That's just how I am," now trouble you, because the Holy Spirit is whispering, "You do not have to live as you did before." All these movements are signs that the miracle is not only coming from the outside, but is taking root from within. When I work, I do not just paint a fresh coat over a cracked wall, I rebuild the foundation. And that means your part is not to sit still waiting, but to respond to each gentle prompting I place in your heart. I know that when you hear about financial miracles, it's very easy for you to slip into a defensive posture. Those words must be for someone else, not for me. You remind yourself of your mistakes, your bad choices, your debts and failures, and then you quietly conclude, "I don't deserve it." But listen closely, my child. I have never given you gifts because you were worthy by the standards of this world. If grace depended on performance, it would no longer be grace. What I am doing today in the financial area of your life is not a reward for perfection, but an expression of a father's heart toward a child who dares to admit, "I am weak. I was wrong. I need help. I am not ignoring the things you are responsible for, but I am not pushing you away because of them either. I draw you close. I place my hand on your shoulder, and I say, 'Now let's walk through this together.' You are no longer alone. Do not let your mind be stolen by the thought, just another message that sounds nice, but nothing will really change. The enemy loves to turn what I say into background noise in your ears, so that you hear without believing, feel moved without being transformed. It will whisper, 'You've heard this before, there's nothing new here,' just to switch off the expectation in your heart. But I repeat these truths not because I have run out of ideas, but because I want to drive out the lies you have listened to for far too long. Every time I say, 'I provide,' I am pushing back a little more of that feeling of abandonment you have carried inside. Every time I say, 'Do not fear,' I am gently loosening one more loop of the cord wrapped around your heart. Do not turn away just because you think you have heard these words somewhere before. This time, I am not speaking to the crowd. I am speaking to you at this very specific moment in your journey. The very moment you choose to stay, not to scroll past, not to walk away halfway, something has already been sealed over your life. Not the seal of a denomination or a movement, but the mark that says, 'This has been spoken, this has been heard, this has been acknowledged.' From this point on, whenever you want to slip back into the old pattern of thinking, 'Maybe this is all my life will ever be,' the Holy Spirit will remind you of this night, this morning, or this very moment when you heard these words. Not to make you feel guilty, but to remind you that there was a day when your Father stood up to defend you in the very area you were most ashamed of. I want you to remember this moment the way people remember a milestone on the road, not because everything changed in an instant, but because from here, the direction shifted. You are free to keep walking down the old path, but you are also free to turn the wheel and step onto the road I am calling you to. However, do not misunderstand. When I say there is no power on earth or in the spiritual realm that can block what I have sent forth, it does not mean you simply sit still, ignore everything, and wait as though expecting a package to be dropped at your front door. What I have spoken is sure, but the way you respond will determine how fully you experience it. When I invite you to adjust your lifestyle, to learn, to seek wise counsel, to let go of unnecessary entanglements, I am giving you the opportunity to walk through the door I have opened. Even in the days of manna for the people of Israel, I sent bread from heaven, but they still had to go out and gather it each morning. I did not place it directly in their mouths. I honored the part they needed to play. It is the same today. I make the way, but you are the one who walks. I change the circumstances, but you are the one who chooses to change how you act within those circumstances. What once was your deepest shame, I want to turn into a story you can tell without choking up, filled only with gratitude. In the future, there will be people sitting across from you whose eyes are heavy with the same anxieties you are feeling today. They will ask you, "How did you get through that season?" And you will not answer with vague philosophies, but with real experiences. The nights you brought your budget sheets and expenses before me, the mornings you forced yourself to say no to unnecessary purchases even though you wanted them, the times you trembled and still dared to give even when you were not truly comfortable. You will not polish your own image. You will lift me up, the one who patiently walked with you, step by step. And that is the glory I want to place upon your financial story. Not only that your debts are cleared, but that the way you live afterwards is completely transformed. Therefore, when I tell you today that the answer has been released, understand that you are being lifted out of the land of the victim and placed into the position of a co-laborer. You no longer have to say, "This is just my fate," because you do not live under the word fate. You live under the voice of your Father. You do not need to strain to prove you are worthy, because I decided to love you and to act on your behalf long before you knew how to pray the right prayer. Your part now is to hold tightly to this word and carry it into the days that seem most ordinary, the work days, the payment days, the days of rejection, the days when the news is not what you hoped for. In all those situations, you can choose to stand on what I have spoken, not as a slogan, but through the choices that shape a different way of living. And with each of those choices, you will find that my word is no longer only on your lips. It will have slipped into the way you think, decide, and respond. My child, I am not promising you a life with no more financial challenges, but I promise that from now on, you will never have to face them as a child thrown alone into battle. You have a Father who walks with you, a word that undergirds you, and the Holy Spirit guiding you step by step. Whenever you feel like giving up, remember this day, the moment you sat and listened, and I spoke clearly to you that I have already risen to speak on your behalf. Do not go back to using my name as a hiding place to escape responsibility. Use my name to stand up, to dare to change, to dare to believe that your financial future is not locked inside your past mistakes. I have spoken, and once I have spoken, the story of your life cannot remain exactly the same. If you take my hand and walk on with me, you will gradually see what I am planting in your heart today. Lack will no longer be the chain that defines you, but the dark background against which my abundance in your life shines all the more clearly. My child, at this point I want you to pause and take a deep, slow breath, as you would before stepping through a new door. Do not keep living with the attitude of, "I know this already, I've heard this before," toward the things I am speaking into your heart. There are truths you have heard dozens of times, yet you have never once truly answered them with a concrete action. Many times, when you reach this part of a video, your heart sinks a little. You sense that I am touching exactly where you are weak, and then you scroll past, switch to something else, as if these words were just a passing breeze. I say this to you gently, but very truthfully. If you keep staying silent, if you continue to stand outside your own life like a spectator, you will miss the very moments I am using to turn the course of your entire journey. This is not just a few inspirational lines. This is my invitation for you to genuinely respond, not with emotion, but with action. I want you to grasp this. Faith is not only in your nods, your tears, or that sense of being touched inside. Faith, to me, always moves together with a visible step of response. When you do something intentional because you believe me, even if it is so small that no one else would notice, before me, it is a very clear yes. For many people, clicking subscribe to a channel or hitting like on a video is just a habitual gesture. But if you do it as a response, I receive this, I agree with this, I choose to walk with this word, then in the spiritual realm, it becomes a marker that heaven records. I do not need you to press a button before I can act, but I use that very little act as a clear sign that here is a heart that does not merely listen in passing, but is willing to walk together. Do not look down on these gestures that seem meaningless, because I do not look at how grand the action appears. I look at the motive of your heart as you do it. I know you have grown weary of hearing so much about prophetic actions, while feeling that your life hardly changes at all. That is why I want to explain this to you more clearly. When I invite you to respond, whether with a single click, with a comment offered up to me, with a decision to subscribe and stay on this journey of my word, I am not playing mind games with you. I am training you in a new way of life. Every response made in faith is like placing another stone into the bridge that connects what I have spoken with what you can see with your eyes. You keep saying, when I see change, then I will act. But the waters of the Jordan only parted when the priests first set their feet into the river. The Red Sea only opened when the staff was lifted up, not the other way around. Today, I am also giving you a very small, yet very real opportunity. Instead of only listening silently and scrolling past, you can mark this moment with an action that says to me, I am here, I believe, and I want to walk with you. Try to look at it more simply. When you click subscribe, press like, or leave a little, I agree, it is not because this channel needs a few more numbers, but because you yourself need a concrete point of contact to remind your heart that something inside you has just been awakened and you do not want to let it fall back asleep as before. Every time you do something small, yet do it while you are still afraid, still unsure, I count it as a seed. That seed falls into an invisible realm, and I, not you, am the one who makes it sprout at the right time. You will not see it immediately, but every click, every whispered amen, every decision to stay and listen all the way to the end of the video instead of dropping out halfway, is another time you turn the direction of your heart toward me a little more. That is why I tell you not to consider those little responses meaningless. They are the very language faith uses to speak. I rejoice when you are moved, but I rejoice far more when I see you willing to cooperate. I did not create you to be a spectator sitting and watching me work alone. I formed you to co-create with me, to step with me into the story I am writing. When you choose to move from watching just to know to staying and responding, you shift your position from an outsider to a participant. When you choose to follow a place that proclaims, my word, you are saying to your own heart, I need to be reminded, to be shaped. I do not want to be on my own anymore. When you like a message that strikes the deepest places of your fear and lack, you are acknowledging, I do not reject what you are saying. I receive it, even though it forces me to face myself again. I value those small moments far more than you think, because I see you trying to step out of your invisible comfort zone. I also want to make this very clear to you. Every time you respond to my voice, even with an action that seems tiny, something is being moved in a realm your eyes cannot see. You often measure everything by your emotions. I do not feel anything new. I do not hear anything unusual. So how can there be any change? But my child, a seed does not germinate on the surface of the ground. It sprouts in the dark, beneath the soil where your eyes cannot see. In the same way, each time you choose to obey, even obedience expressed through very ordinary gestures, such as stopping to pray, fully committing to a journey of learning my word, or sharing this video with someone you know is stuck, I am rearranging things you cannot control. You do not need to understand the whole mechanism. You only need to believe that My word never falls to the ground and returns empty. In the same way, not a single act of trust from you is ever considered useless in my sight. Today I grant you one more privilege. You can turn this very moment, as you are listening to these lines, into a small altar in your heart. That altar is not made of stone. It needs no wood or fire. It is built by your decision. When you say, "I no longer listen just for enjoyment, I want to listen in order to be changed," you are laying the foundation of that altar again. When you choose to pause over the subscribe button and, in your heart, whisper, "I want to be reminded, to be refined. I want to stay connected to what the Lord is teaching me through this channel," then that simple click becomes a small offering you place upon. I do not despise small offerings. I am only saddened when the altar in your heart is abandoned and no decisions are laid upon it anymore. Do not think that an altar of faith must be some big event. It begins the moment you decide that you will not just scroll past like every other time. I also know there is always another voice inside you whispering, "It's just a video, why take it so seriously?" That is precisely the voice that wants to keep you in a passive state, where every word I speak is treated as mere content for consumption. But I did not design you to consume my word the way you would any random clip. I desire my word to become your daily bread, not a snack you nibble on when you have spare time. When you treat this moment as weighty, you are training your heart in a new habit, to honor my voice above the noise around you. And one of the simplest ways to express that honor in this age is to choose to stay connected, to take part, to allow yourself to be reminded, nourished, and corrected again and again. Instead of letting your faith drift with passing feelings, I also want to adjust the way you see yourself. You are not here like someone standing at the gate, holding out a hand for just a little something to get through the day. You are not a beggar pleading for a few crumbs of blessing from my hand. You are a child in the house. You are meant to share in the inheritance, not to stand outside the door in hiding. When you live as though you were an outsider, always asking, always afraid, always waiting to see what others receive, before daring to believe you might receive too, you are forgetting your true position. I want you today, in this very moment, to rise up from within, not rising from your chair, but rising in your thinking, in the way you speak about yourself. When you click, follow, walk with, when you confess with your mouth, "I am your child," I am not an extra in your plan, you are taking a very important step out of the place of a beggar and into the place of an heir. I have not forgotten you. I never have and I never will. There are times you look around and think, surely God has too much to do, too many people to care for. I am just one among countless others. But to me, you are never just one of them. I know every breath you take, every long night you lie awake because of money, debt, the future. I hear even the sighs you do not dare turn into words with anyone. You may feel as though you have stepped out of my plan, as though you are late or stuck, but in my eyes you are still within reach of my hand. My plan for you is not shattered by the years you have wandered. It remains open, and I am using those very failures as material for a deeper story of rescue. The only thing I am waiting for from you is not perfection, but a simple response. I still want to walk with you. If you were to ask, "So, what must I do right now?" I would not give you a long list that overwhelms you. I only want you to begin with one confession and one concrete step. You can confess in your heart or with your lips, "I believe I am not left outside the plan. I believe you are calling me to go deeper, and I choose to respond." Then, right after that, choose one simple yet sincere action. Subscribe so you will not miss the spiritual reminders. Press like as a mark of your agreement. Share this video with a friend you know is bound by fear of lack. Or write down a sentence that pierced your heart so you can revisit it during the week. That is not merely interacting with content. It is you signing your name on the decision to move forward with me. I see that signature, even when no one else does. I remind you of one last thing. Do not let shame over your past keep you silent in the present. You may think, I have listened so much, promised so much, and done so little. What good would it do if I respond again now? My child, each day I cause the sun to rise again, not because yesterday it shone enough. In the same way, I am giving you a new opportunity right now, not because you deserve it, but because I am the one who is always ready to begin again with those who are willing to return. Do not let past failures stop you from pressing one more yes. Do not let the fact that you have watched much spiritual content and grown numb be the reason you scroll away this time. The moment you are living in has never existed before. It is unique, and the decision you make in this one unique moment can open a chain of changes you yourself could never have imagined. So I say to you with all tenderness, yet full authority, do not stand still any longer. Do not only listen, do not only think it is good, do not only say, I'll leave it for tomorrow. Let your heart, your hands, your fingers on the screen all declare one thing together. I believe and I respond. From here on, may your subscribing no longer be just adding a Foxent number, your liking no longer be a habit, but become a sign of a life that is shifting from passive to active in faith. Confess the promise I have placed over your life, not as a magic formula, but as a reminder. You belong to me. You are not destined for lack. You are called into a journey of healing, shaping, and preparation to become a source of blessing. And today, everything begins not with some spectacular miracle, but with the very small decision you are about to make, the decision to say to me, with your whole heart and with your action, I believe, and I choose to walk with you from this moment on. Do you know, in this very moment, as you are listening to me, while your heart is still a mixture of hope and confusion, this is not some meaningless instant slipping by. Every second you remain in my presence, every time you choose to keep listening instead of turning this off and going back to the old whirlwind, the covenant between you and me is being pressed one layer deeper into your heart. You are not here just to listen so it hurts a little less, to pick up a few comforting phrases and then return to the same place as before. You are standing before what I regard as an altar not made of stone, but formed by your own honest heart, where I am once again confirming the word I have spoken over your life. Even though you have often thought you are no longer worthy to even hear the phrase, promise, spoken over you. I remember all those nights you lay facing the wall, sighing and drawing this conclusion in your heart, maybe this is as far as my life will ever go. I hear even the questions you do not dare voice to anyone. Has the Lord grown tired of me too? I do not overlook a single one of those thoughts, and precisely because I have walked with you through every moment when you were sure there was no way out, when I speak to you today, I am not speaking as a stranger, but as the one who has been present in every darkest stretch of your road. I see very clearly how many times you have tried to stand up and then fallen again, how many times you have resolved that from now on it will be different, only for a small incident to be enough to blow out the flame that had just been kindled. You look at reality, at the debts, at the many failures, at the relationships that have closed their doors, and you come to this conclusion: my life probably won't have any new chapter. It will just keep circling around the same old things. I hear those words, and I know you are not saying them to defy me, but because you are exhausted from hoping and then being disappointed over and over again. But today I have not come to ask you to somehow reactivate an empty, superficial optimism. I have come to proclaim something that belongs to me, something that does not depend on how hard you can push yourself. The cycle of lack, depletion, and always being behind has come to its end. You will not be the one to cut it off, for if you could have, you would have done so long ago. It is I, the one who has watched every breath you take, who puts the final period on that cycle. I am not just comforting you that things will get a bit better. I am actively bringing an old season to a close and leading you into another chapter that I prepared long before you realized you were stuck. When I tell you that a new season is opening, I am not promising you a string of days that are only easy and comfortable, but I am promising that in this season, you will begin to experience a kind of abundance very different from what the world defines. Abundance is not merely a positive number in your account. It is that you are no longer ruled by the fear of not enough, no longer dragged along by screaming debts, no longer letting old accusations dictate how you look at tomorrow. I will open very specific doors, work opportunities, new directions, healthy relationships, wise ways of managing what you have, so that victory will no longer be a vague idea but something tangible that you can describe clearly. You will be surprised to see that people no longer refer to you as the one who owes so much, the one who is always under pressure, but will begin to ask you, how are you still standing like this? How did you make it through that last stretch? And when they ask, that will be the moment I use your very answer to glorify my name, for you know very well you did not turn things around by yourself. You are simply walking along the path I set before you, which you once did not dare to take. You will see the very battles that once made you ashamed become the backdrop that makes the grace of victory I have placed on your life shine all the more clearly. But so that you do not misunderstand, I need you to know this. What I am beginning is not just a one-time problem fix, not a single financial rescue or some lucky break that lets you breathe for a few years, only to slip back to where you were. I have not come to tape a patch over a crack. I have come to replace the foundation itself. I am not merely adjusting things so you are a bit less short. I want to change the entire operating system inside you, how you think about me, about yourself, about money, about the purpose of your life. What I am doing is opening up an entirely new phase, not only on the surface of your circumstances, but deep within your soul. I know you are used to getting a little and then losing it. So when you hear the word forever, you feel hesitant, afraid that hoping like that will only make the disappointment twice as painful. But the forever I am speaking of is not a flat, unchanging line of days. It is a transformation so deep that, even when circumstances still rise and fall, you will not go back to the old way of living and thinking. I am leading you into a new inner land, where lack is no longer your identity, only a phase you pass through, where abundance is not about proving you are better than others, but about having enough and more to love, to give, to build. When that happens, even if there are lean seasons on the outside, you will no longer slide back into the whirlpool of panic as before, because your heart has learned to anchor itself in the one who does not change. Let me make it even clearer. I am lifting you into a level of spiritual life where your provision is no longer locked inside the frame of how much you earn, who you know, or whether you are as capable as others. I am not telling you to despise salary, relationships, or effort. I myself use those things as channels, but the water flowing through them comes from me. When your eyes are fixed only on the channels, you will be terrified whenever work is disrupted, income falls, someone turns away, or some door closes. But when you understand that I am the source, you will learn to use those channels in freedom, working with all your heart, but not worshiping your paycheck, treasuring relationships, but not clinging to them, doing your very best, but not making yourself the savior of your own life. You are being gradually shifted out of living dependent on what is visible into living upon my unshakable faithfulness. This shifting does not happen in one night, but I promise to walk with you patiently, step by step, so that you can feel this change with your whole heart, and not just hear about it as a beautiful concept. The support I give you is not like the support you once expected from people. Many times you have wished someone would just step in, pay everything off for you, hand you a golden opportunity, arrange things neatly so you could simply enjoy. I am not saying that sort of thing can never happen, but I want you to know that there is a deeper kind of help. I raise you up from within. I place in you the courage to face reality instead of avoiding it, the wisdom to discern what is true need and what is wasteful habit to soothe your insecurity. I give you the strength to say no to enticing invitations that only increase your bondage, the endurance to patiently repay each debt, correct each habit, and reorder each area of your life. You will be surprised to realize that in this very process you sense my presence more clearly than in those moments of emotional intensity. For when you are sweating and yet still at peace, that is when you know you are not carrying the weight alone. My invisible arm is holding you, adjusting your steps, patting the road under your feet, even when you cannot yet see the finish line clearly. As for my favor that surrounds you, it is not merely a warm feeling during gatherings, but a new environment into which I am gradually bringing you. In that environment, you will notice things like this. A door that seemed sealed suddenly has a crack of light. A small idea turns into a pathway. An accidental conversation opens up. Collaboration, a habit you thought you could never break, slowly feels foreign to you. Do not rush to call these things coincidence, because I have been arranging these pieces for a long time, only waiting for you to step out of passivity, out of using my name as an excuse to avoid responsibility, and begin to move into the flow of partnering with me. Grace is not a free pass for irresponsibility. Grace is power, atmosphere, a new climate that enables you to finally do the things you used to plan just for show. Under my grace, you no longer have to play the role of a victim of circumstances. You become a steward of what I entrust to you, whether little or much, with clarity of mind and a heart wide open. My child, I do not deny what you have been through. I do not ignore the stumbles, the mistakes, the impulsive decisions, but neither do I allow those things the right to write the final sentence of your story. When I say you will no longer be remembered for your debts, I am not sweeping away your responsibility to repay. I am saying that when people think of your name, the first thing that will come to mind will no longer be pitiful, struggling, lacking, but that person has something very different, a peace, a vitality, a way of living that is steady, and that very thing will make others curious about your Father. I am rewriting the way people read your life, not as a long, dragging tragedy, but as a journey with many hard stretches that is nonetheless always led by one who knows exactly what he is doing. You are being invited to partner with me in writing those new chapters by trusting me, walking in what I prompt you to do, and refusing to go back to the old way of living, even when, at times, it seems easier. So, do not treat what you are hearing now as just a few lines of encouragement. Receive it as my hand resting on your head as I declare, I will not abandon you halfway. I did not pull you out of shallow waters to drop you in the middle of the deep sea. I am leading you on because I have already appointed a place for you to stand. You will gradually learn how to live in this new land, where you know how to take responsibility but do not carry the weight alone, where you work with all your heart but are not ruled by money, where you use faith not as a way to escape, but as the strength to face and move through. Each day, you will have the chance to choose between living like your old self, always defensive, always blaming, always waiting for an easy miracle, or living as my child, daring to look things in the eye, daring to change, daring to believe even before you see. Every time you choose to follow me, even in the smallest decision, you are declaring to heaven and earth, the old cycle is no longer my home, and I, the one who began the good work in you, will not stop my hand until you truly walk firmly into the new season I have promised, a season of abundance in me, safety in me, and usefulness in my hand for many others. Right now, in this very moment, be still, open your heart, and lift up to me the most honest prayers from the deepest place within you. Lord God Almighty, you know every hidden corner of my heart better than I know myself, and today I come before you with all the trembling, weakness, and fear of lack that I have carried for far too long. I confess that many times my mouth has said, God provides, yet my heart has been tied tightly to numbers, to debts, to worst-case scenarios that I created in my own mind. I have so often used fear as my compass instead of your promises, chosen worry instead of trust, chosen to shrink back instead of stepping forward. Please forgive me for allowing the fear of lack to sit in the place that rightfully belongs to you in my heart. Today, I bring to you every anxiety about tomorrow, every ache from the feeling of never enough, every exhaustion from having to pretend I am strong while inside I am falling apart. Please pour your unconditional love into the places where I am empty within, so that I may understand that true safety is not found in my wallet, but in the arms of my Father. May your Holy Spirit touch the very root of fear in my heart, breaking every word, every memory, every negative experience that has made me believe I am destined to live in lack forever. I surrender back to you the right to define what enough means in my life, and I choose to begin learning how to walk as a child cared for by the Father, not as an orphan who must fend for themselves. Father, you are the God who is full of mercy and slow to anger. I come to you and lay before you all the labels I have unconsciously stuck onto my life. Debtor, failure, the one who will never measure up. I confess that many times I have looked at myself more through my debts, my failed ventures, my missed opportunities, than through what you have spoken over me. I have allowed the criticism of others, the mocking of circumstances, and even my own self-despising words to become the loudest voice in my mind. Please forgive me for believing those voices more than I have believed yours. Today, I ask you to step into the deepest place of my identity, into the place where I still believe my life will probably never get beyond this, where I still imagine that you favor others more than you favor me. Please use your word like a sharp sword to cut every invisible chain that ties me to my mistaken past, so that I no longer confuse who I am with my debts and my failures. Remind me that I was redeemed by the precious blood of Jesus Christ, that I am called by name, that I belong to you and not to failure. Place in my heart a new understanding of myself, that I am a child of the King, called to live in the light, to learn from my failures, but not be defined by them. From today on, I choose to learn to speak about myself the way you speak about me, and whenever I grow weak, Holy Spirit, please remind me to look back into the Father's eyes, not into the ledger of this life. Lord God Almighty, I bow my heart in gratitude to you, because in all the times I have trembled, been confused, and thought I was struggling alone, in truth, you have never taken your eyes off me. I remember the months when it seemed impossible to pay rent, tuition, or even food, and yet here I am, still breathing, still alive, still having small things to rejoice in. That was not by chance, but the imprint of your hand. I thank you because even though I have so often complained, doubted, and even sulked in anger, you have patiently waited for me to return, gently reminding me that you are my Father, not my creditor. I thank you because you have not only given me what I needed materially, but have used times of lack to reveal the depth of your love, to draw me closer to you, to teach me to cling to you rather than cling to money. May this gratitude continually remind me that I am living by grace, not by my own wisdom or strength. Good Father, I thank you that even though I have not yet seen a spectacular breakthrough in my finances or circumstances, you have been quietly renewing me from the inside out. I thank you that I have begun to be honest with you and with myself about my true condition, that I have dared to open my eyes to face the numbers, the debts, the bad habits, instead of running away as before. I thank you that you have taught me very small steps, writing down my expenses, saying no to an unnecessary invitation to spend, choosing to pay even a tiny portion of my debt on time, and in those things, you have allowed me to taste a new kind of peace, a peace that comes from living uprightly and cooperating with you. I thank you that each time I choose to do the right thing in small matters, I sense your smile, like a father delighted to see his child learning to walk. Please help me not to despise these small steps forward, because they are the very evidence that the Holy Spirit is truly at work in my life. I offer this prayer in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that together we can build a strong and vibrant community of faith.